Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one-stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. This is Shyam Kaggod here, bringing you the Hindu news analysis dated 21st March 2025. From the daily edition, I've taken a total of 11 articles. In addition to these 11 articles, I've also taken one more article from the Mint newspaper, and that is basically in the context of a question asked by a learner. And that article we'll discuss at the end. Before I start the discussion, two very important announcements. Those who are aiming to ace the upcoming civil services examination, I want you to take up a test that is going to be held on 23rd March, either in the morning or in the evening. There are two slots, 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. The importance of taking these kind of tests is that you will understand what is the level of your preparation, and according to the outcome, don't worry what is the outcome. According to the outcome, you can do a course correction. And I know many of you will basically say, sir, my aim is not 2025 but 2026 or 2027. For those kind of aspirants, again I would simply implore you, take up this particular test, same timing, 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. on 23rd March. And if you score very good number of marks, you can avail up to 100% scholarship. And those who are aiming to clear the civil service examination, even if you don't score well, you can avail the courses at a 60% discount at a lowest price of 22,999. And this is for a 15-month course. Once you enroll into this, you will get recorded and live sessions in Hindi, English or bilingual online classes, the test series for prelims as well as the mains, and the notes as well. So according to your requirement, if you are interested, please do click on the link provided in the description below. Now let me start the discussion, and as usual, let me start with the editorial page. The first article, the challenges of policing digital giants. Let me give you one example here. What is the issue? What is the discussion about? Couple of months ago, I went to a mall, a shopping complex, and while exiting this particular shopping complex, they asked me that they are running a particular scheme, and if I provide all my details such as my mobile number, the housing address, etc., including my let's say email ID as well, and if I'm picked up in this particular slot, if I'm a lucky winner, I would be winning XYZ. And just like all of you, or let's say most of you, being a gullible customer in the market, I gave them all my details. Immediately after a couple of days, I started receiving calls, mails from different companies. Somebody wanted to give me a housing loan despite already having a housing loan. Somebody wanted to give me a vehicle loan. Somebody wanted to sell product X to me, product Y to me, Z to me, etc. The outcome that basically the issue here is simple. When I gave the details, I only consented to being used as a participant in this lucky draw. But then I realized all my details, including my mobile number, mobile number, email ID and address, etc., all of that has been shared without my consent to somebody else or other market participants. Now, I'm pretty sure same kind of experience, many of you would have experienced the same thing, right? Where once you provide your details, different sellers from the market will keep on getting in touch with you. Now, the issue here is when you share your details, when you provide your private information, can this private information be used by different sellers or different, let's say, companies in the market pitching or let's say providing certain goods or services to you, or marketing or advertising certain products, right, according to what you require or what you are actually searching in the Google, etc. I'll just give you one example here. Please have a look at this particular flow chart for the company Google as well as Meta. And if you look at this, you will realize that the company Meta has ownership of multiple other subsidiaries or entities. And this particular company, Google, essentially you will see that even this company, Google, has ownership of multiple subsidiaries. If you provide, let's say, consent or no consent, but you provide your information in any of these, one of these application, any one of these application, there is absolutely no guarantee that this particular information will not be shared to other subsidiaries or other entities of the company Meta. Just to give you an example here, couple of years ago, the WhatsApp, I'm pretty sure all of you use WhatsApp. I also use WhatsApp. I'm pretty sure all of you using WhatsApp. You cannot even imagine a particular day without having a WhatsApp. To that particular extent, we are habituated now. In 2021, WhatsApp came out with a privacy policy. And essentially they said, now without, right, understand this, without you whether having accepted or not accepted doesn't matter. Whatever information we have collected, right, for example, your mobile phone number, the kind of charts you're having, etc., this data can be shared with other entities of the Meta company. Is it okay? I'll repeat this again. In 2021, they came out with a privacy policy. And essentially, there was no option for you not choosing this. There was absolutely no option. You will have to consent to it. Otherwise, the services will not be available to you. So essentially what they did was, they are taking your, right, let's say permission, and this permission is by default, you permitting the company, that is a WhatsApp entity, sharing your details to other entities, other subsidiaries of Meta. And what is the use of this? Please understand, nowadays there is a saying, data is the new oil. Data is the new oil. I'm pretty sure all of you heard of this. Data is the new oil. That is essentially the companies are collecting lot of the data from multiple stakeholders, multiple companies, multiple individuals, etc. They are compiling this particular data, and using this data, they will come to know what is your address. They will come to know what are your preferences. They will come to know what kind of goods you are searching for, what kind of services you are searching for, and using this data, they will essentially bombard you with these kind of goods, advertisements, services, etc. Can I give you one more example which all of you will agree? Whenever you are searching for something on the YouTube, let's say you saw 2 videos which are related to astrology. After that, are you not bombarded with videos on astrology? Are you not bombarded with advertisements associated with Astro Talk, etc., etc.? So that is essentially what will happen using this particular data. Now, this is a problem. Why? There are some of these particular companies, especially multinational enterprises, which will collect this data through subsidiaries, and they will use this data essentially to provide or control higher market share. For example, Google has the highest market share in terms of having Android mobile phones. It has a policy earlier, it had a policy wherein a smartphone or a smart TV which will use Android, by default they will have to install certain programs or softwares or the apps that will give you access to only Google. You want to search, you'll have to use Google search engine. You want to download, you can download only using their app store, etc. And that will give lot of monopoly powers to these kind of entities. So the issue is regarding privacy here. Issue is regarding having higher market share, or these companies which already have a very high market share accumulating, dominating the market with this more and more market share. And this has not been the issue only in the context of India. Many other countries, many other places, there have been investigations conducted against these practices of multinational enterprises. For example, very recently, a district court in the United States of America, USA, basically the judge said, The company Google is a monopolist. These kind of companies are having a monopoly in the market, and using this market share or using this, right, let's say dominant position in the market, they will try to ensure that there is no competition in the market. They will ensure their market share will further increase, which will add to their bottom line or essentially profitability. So the article basically discusses the same issue. It says the Competition Commission of India, CCI, which is the market regulator, which is essentially the regulator to ensure that the interest of the consumers, such as you and me, are protected in India. The Competition Commission of India has investigated and imposed penalties on these kind of practices followed by the multinational enterprises in India. For example, a penalty was imposed on the Meta company. It was imposed on Meta company. And this company essentially appealed against the penalty order of CCI at NCLAT, National Company Law Appellate Tribunal. Now, before I go forward, here is a very important point. Some of you might be thinking, sir, if the order is issued by Competition Commission of India, why is there appeal against it at NCLAT? Why? I felt that whenever NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal, will issue the order, only against this we can approach NCLAT. But here you are saying CCI has issued order and you have approached NCLAT. How can that happen? Listen to me very carefully. The Competition Commission of India is set up under the provisions of Competition Commission Act of 2002. And later on, Government of India amended and set up one more authority, Competition Appellate Tribunal, COMPAT. There was one more authority set up, Appellate Tribunal, COMPAT. Now, after that, the Government of India, under the provisions of the Companies Act of 2013, CA 2013, CA here is Companies Act, not Chartered Accountant. So, under the Companies Act of 2013, set up a regulatory authority, NCLT. In addition to that, they also set up an appellate authority, NCLAT. Now, after that, Government of India basically wanted to streamline the whole process. They wanted to streamline the whole process. So, what they did was, they abolished COMPAT and all the functions of the COMPAT were basically transferred to NCLAT. Is it okay? Right, so COMPAT has been abolished. After 2017, there is no COMPAT. And these functions, for example, hearing the appeals against the Competition Commission of India now will be taken up by NCLAT. Factual information, but relevant. Please be very careful. Now, let's continue with the story. Competition Commission of India investigated against Meta, imposed penalties. Meta approached NCLAT. That has been stayed. Right, the privacy policy has been put on, right, let's say the orders of CCI against the privacy policy or the basically data sharing, the order has been blocked by NCLAT. Now, there is one more order which has been issued by Competition Commission of India against Google as well, against monopolistic tendencies or market manipulation that is being done by company Google. And this is not just applicable only to India. The issue here is, you take example of Australia. There are investigations, there are, right, let's say certain orders which have been issued against such tendencies or the practices of the multinational enterprises. You take European Union, again there are cases. In USA, again there are cases, etc. So I hope you understand. So argument of the writer here or the writers here is very simple. What is the way forward? You cannot keep on addressing these kind of issues only, right, through the CCI. It is a piecemeal order or it is a piecemeal approach. Rather than having this kind of a piecemeal approach, you should have an integrated or a wholesome approach. What do you mean by this? Come to the point here. Competition Commission Act of 2002. Let's cut to the chase and enter into the core of the debate. What should we do then? Start making changes or amendments to the Competition Commission Act of 2002. Simple. Sir, what kind of amendments? What kind of changes we must do? Right now, under the Competition Commission Act, what is, let's say, the market share? What is a market domination? What is a manipulation of this particular market domination? These kind of terminologies do not include digital companies. I hope you understand this. These kind of terminologies do not include the digital entities, digital enterprises, right? So what you need to do, first one, basically amend the definition, ensure that the new types of events or the market scenarios are also included in this, right? Include, make it more comprehensive. That is the first very important change. Second very important change, have it in the Competition Commission Act as to how data can be collected. And once the data is collected, how it can be shared. Should it be allowed to be shared within the same subsidiaries of the parent company? Or should it be allowed to be shared with all the other competitors in the market? Because mind you, if you allow the data sharing, the WhatsApp will collect the data. WhatsApp will share this with entities owned by Meta. And as a result of this group of companies will continue to dominate the market. That will not provide the same level of participation, that will hinder competition in the market. So if you allow to collect the data and share the data, if you allow it to share the data, then let's have guidelines where you will allow the companies, other competitors access to this kind of a data. So these kind of changes must be introduced in the Competition Commission Act of 2002. So these are some of the very important recommendations as well as observations done in this editorial by the title, The Challenge of Policing Digital Giants. Okay. Now, associated with this, one MCQ number 77. Consider the following statements. The appeals against the orders of CCI can be appealed, right, at NCLAT. NCLAT has been set up under the Competition Commission Act of 2002. NCLAT has taken over the functions of COMPAT. 3 statements. Many of you simply say, sir, very easy. It becomes easy because I've discussed the points already, right? But suddenly in UPSC, they will throw you these kind of statements. Be very, very careful. Okay. Now, do not worry about the key answer. I will give you the key answer at the end of the session. Second article, Multilateralism and International Law in the age of Mr. Donald Trump. Right? What is the issue related to the multilateralism and international law? Now, essentially, in the last couple of months, there has been too much of a discussion regarding what is the kind of, let's say, policies followed by Mr. Donald Trump, the president of USA, and what can be the likely impact. Now, this article discusses a different aspect, that is, what can be the impact of such policies on the international law, on multilateralism. Because mind you, post the Second World War, there has been a rising dependence over the concept of a multilateralism. Right? What do you mean by multilateralism? One of the reasons, again I'm saying one of the reasons, I'm very mindful about my words because I know many of you will basically comment either now or later on saying that, sir, this was not the cause of the Second World War. There were multiple factors. I also know that, you don't worry. One of the reasons that led to the Second World War and intensified the Second World War was basically the regionalism, or let's say nationalistic protectionist ideologies. The nationalist protectionism. Right now, for example, you are seeing in USA, they have an agenda called as MAGA, Make America Great Again, or America First. It is a protectionist idea. And before I go forward, do not jump to a conclusion only USA has a protectionist idea. Absolutely no. Do not jump to that particular conclusion. Other countries, by the way, including India, also have these kind of protectionist ideas. But essentially, we have not gone to that particular extent or to the, let's say, the extreme level that USA has already reached. But idea is very simple here. Earlier also, before the Second World War broke out, these kind of tendencies originated. right? Multiple laws were introduced in USA, just like they are being introduced in USA right now in order to promote trade, in order to promote exports from USA. These kind of policies were introduced before the Second World War in 1930s. And that actually led to retaliation by other countries. That led to growth of regionalism, or let's say nationalism in many countries, led to growth of Nazis in Germany, etc. So argument is very simple here. After Second World War, we decided let's not focus on these kind of nationalistic ideas. Let's promote the growth of the global trade. Let's promote international laws, etc. Right? And basically the article discusses what can be the likely impact of the policies of Mr. Donald Trump on this multilateralism and the international laws that we have so very well carefully converted, or let's say developed, promoted post the Second World War. Three very important aspects to focus here. First one is, now the Donald Trump administration is focused on one more type of a withdrawal, or withdrawal from one more international organization, that is United Nations. Already they've announced withdrawal from WHO. They have announced many other policies. Very recently, there has been an act which has been introduced in USA by the name of Defund Act. Defund essentially stands for disengaging entirely from United Nations debacle. Disengaging entirely from United Nations or UN Debacle Act. Now, what is the argument here? The argument is very simple. The USA contributes certain number of, let's say, people to fight, right, let's say, in the UN peacekeeping missions. In addition to providing troops, the United States also provides a lot of financial support. More than 25% of the total funding, more than 25%, mind you, of the total funding to the United Nations essentially comes from USA, as it happens in many of these international organizations. Now, the government of USA is of the argument that there is no point in these kind of multilateral organizations because these are not contributing to growth of economy or protection of USA interest. And that is exactly what they're trying to do now. They want to basically withdraw the country USA from the membership of United Nations. And what is the likely impact of this? Please understand, the concept of United Nations was set up, or the idea of a United Nations initially was floated by Mr. FDR, right? Franklin D. Roosevelt, the president of USA during the Second World War. The government of USA at that point of time heralded, brought in all these countries together and set up the idea or the concept of a United Nations. In fact, the first conference of United Nations was held in USA. That is basically to approve the Charter of United Nations. Not just that, USA was the first country to basically approve the Charter of United Nations. So over a period of time, UN has contributed in terms of finances, in terms of, let's say, the personnel at United Nations, and providing lot of leeway to United Nations officials who are working in USA. Now, if the government of USA will withdraw its membership, all of this would be affected. All of this would be affected. That is the first concern raised by the author in the article, or writer in the article. Second one, sanctions against International Criminal Court. Right? This ICC is there in the discussion a lot of times in recent times. Be very careful. What is the issue of USA with ICC? Please understand, the ICC as a entity has been set up after the passage of a statute, Rome Statute. USA has not accepted it. USA is not a member of ICC. And before I go forward, please do let me know in the chat section, is India member of ICC? And please do let me know about that. So argument is simple here. United States says we are not one member of ICC. We do not accept their jurisdiction in the USA. Second, a lot of times ICC has accepted, right, let's say the petitions, and has basically taken action, started taking action against the allies of United States of America. As a result of all of these particular arguments, USA now says, I want to impose sanctions against ICC. It has already done in the month of February. And what is the impact of this? If a developed country such as USA doesn't recognize ICC, and forget about recognizing, will start imposing sanctions on ICC, it will essentially weaken the image of ICC at the international level. And if these kind of, let's say, the structures are weakened, then basically it will allow many of these, let's say, the countries, right, to conduct certain action or to take certain action which can be considered as a war crime. It will basically give them a leeway. It will provide them with an argument saying that, see, even USA is against ICC. So that is the second very important argument that has been raised in the article. Third very important argument, trade trouble. Trade trouble. In case of the trade trouble, what is the concept being discussed here? Point number one, United States of America is the largest economy, one of the largest economy, whether you say in terms of absolute or let's say current or nominal exchange rate or purchasing power parity. Because I know when I say it is the largest country, right, in terms of GDP, somebody will say, no, sir, you're wrong. It is not the largest in terms of purchasing power parity. Don't worry about that. It is one of the largest economies, right? That's a point. And being, by the virtue of being one of the largest economies, largest GDPs in the global market, it will conduct a lot of trade with other countries. And this kind of a trade in the global market has been facilitated by establishment of World Trade Organization, WTO. India is a founding member of WTO. USA is also a member of WTO. Many other countries are members of WTO. But systematically, what the government of USA has been doing is, it has been weakening global organizations such as World Trade Organization. It has been systematically weakening this. How so? Under WTO, whenever there is, let's say, a dispute between two parties, right? Let's say there is a dispute between two parties, both the parties will approach WTO, try to resolve this under the Dispute Settlement Body, DSB, Dispute Settlement Body. Now, whenever there is a dispute like this, initially the Dispute Settlement Body will ask the member countries which are involved in the dispute to resolve the dispute, right, by negotiating amongst themselves. For example, when you will have a fight with your sibling, your mother or your father will not initially intervene. They'll say both of you are grown up, both of you are in fact appearing for UPSC. Try to resolve the dispute amongst yourselves. Don't bring this particular issue to me. Now, what if you cannot resolve the dispute? In that particular case, right, the head of the household will intervene and try to resolve the dispute. That is exactly what is done under the WTO as well. So initially the body will ask the member countries to resolve the dispute. If not, essentially they'll set up, right, a panel, investigation panel or the expert panel which will investigate and issue or basically come out with a report. Now, against the findings of the panel, you can approach appellate body, AB. AB is appellate body here, not Amitabh Bachchan, appellate body. Now, you can go to appellate body, right, file an appeal against the orders or the, let's say, the findings of the panel. But what has happened? Out of 6 members, there are supposed to be, right, certain members in the appellate body. And these members are supposed to be appointed with the consensus, mind you, with the consensus. USA has been withholding its consensus for appointment of the members in the appellate body. It has been withholding its consensus. And when you withhold the consensus, you cannot appoint members. And when you cannot appoint members, there is no appellate body. And when there is no appellate body, the whole process will crumble. The whole process will become useless. And that is exactly what has happened in the context of United Nations, in the context of World Trade Organization now. So it has been weakening this particular organization by withholding consent to the appointment of members in the appellate body. Done, right? So these are the 3 very important issues which have been raised by the writer here as to how USA's policies are assault on multilateralism as well as international law. So what is the solution then? What is the solution? Essentially, the other remaining countries, USA is a very important country, no doubt. But there are many other countries. Other countries should also take a stand against the policies of USA. And when USA will start withdrawing itself into this kind of a, let's say, protectionist ideals, let other countries step up and basically take a leadership role. For example, there is a lot of discussion to what extent India can play to, let's say, India can take up this leadership role in the global market. For example, in terms of promoting of renewable energy, we have taken a lead role now, right? Through establishment of International Solar Alliance, we are the let's say, country which promoted this idea, introduced this idea, and we are promoting it. So other countries should step up and take a leadership role. And second, no doubt trade with USA is important. So is the trade with other countries. We can trade with other countries. For example, India is negotiating a trade deal with, right, let's say European countries now. India has entered into trade deal with other countries. Why not negotiate with USA also? So you can ensure that you will not be affected to a very great extent by these kind of policies of USA. Done? So these are some of the recommendation or way forward that you can provide in your answer writing. Done? Right? Everybody is okay? Right here, I've given an assignment for you to practice mains answer writing. Ishwar and Kirti, my dear, I'm looking at the questions or doubts, but I'll not address your questions immediately. Let me cover the articles. At the end, I'll address your doubts. Have patience. Mutual enrichment among nations can only be achieved through cooperation rather than coercion. Discuss the statement in light of current policies of US government. A 15-marker question, you can write it, or you'll have to write it in 250 words. Okay, so let me go to the next article. Free and fair elections. Now, what is the issue being discussed? Let me give you a very short story here, just to make you understand what is the issue. As per one data, back in the 2019, when elections were conducted in Andhra Pradesh, essentially the data regarding how many voters, what is the percentage of voters who have actually cast the vote, was published by Election Commission, and later it was revised. And that is a very common practice, very, very common practice. They will publish the data, what is the percentage of voters, that is out of the total number of registered voters, how many have actually cast the vote. What is the percentage? They will publish it and they will keep on revising it. As and when the data is available, they'll keep on revising it. Now somebody will say, sir, why can't they get the data immediately? Right, a 5G internet is there, Starlink is also coming to India. Why can't they publish it immediately? My dear, argument is very simple. Even though 5G is available in India, 4G is available in India, Starlink is about to come to India, there are certain regions from where you cannot immediately get the data. For example, hilly regions, difficult terrains, etc. So they will publish initial data and they'll keep on revising. Done. This is point number one. Point number two, back in 2019, when this revision was done, compared to what was published originally, the first publication, compared to that, revision was a very small one. That is, the number was increased hardly around 1%. Now, basically jump to 2024, 2019 elections, 2024 elections. In 2024 elections also, the first publication was done and that was revised. But what led to a lot of criticism or concern was, when the data was revised, the revision, it was done upwards. That is, the percentage was increased by around 5%. Is everybody able to understand the story here? The revision was done, but the data was increased by around 5%. That is, if you basically break it down per constituency now, more 24,000 people more have voted compared to the first announcement. So argument is very simple here. Many of these organizations basically went to Supreme Court of India, asked Supreme Court of India to direct the Election Commission of India. What should be the direction? Election Commission of India should publish absolute number of voters. Is it okay? Per ward, per constituency, what is the absolute number of voters? That should be published by Election Commission of India. The ECI publishes overall. That is how many women have voted, right? How many men have voted, what is the percentage of voters, etc. This kind of overall data is provided. But in 2024, Election Commission of India did not provide a detailed breakup. That is, let's say the booth wise, or let's say the constituency wise, this kind of, right, this kind of a data, detailed data was not published. And there is a reason. Election Commission of India simply says, I do not provide this kind of an absolute breakdown of data because I'm worried that certain, let's say certain elected people will look at this data and they might make up the policies. They might essentially decide, I will have this kind of policy because this constituency voters are more, people are voting for me, they have been very helpful in me getting elected. I'll make policies which will support them, which will help them. And I will not make any kind of, let's say, infrastructure. I will not spend money on these kind of constituencies. This kind of a retaliatory policies can be done. And that is the precise reason why Election Commission of India under Form 17C, right, just for sake of information, under Form 17C, until and unless, right, let's say an observer will ask for this, or let's say the candidate will ask for this, this kind of information is not put out in the public domain. And this has been demanded by various organizations that the ECI should provide this information because we are worried. We are worried because, right, essentially the data regarding voters is given, right, on the day of election, and then later it is revised by 4%, by 5%. There is a lot of discrepancy. We want to know exactly how many voters have cast vote in this particular region. Is everyone okay? Now, what is the update regarding this? The update is very simple. ECI now says all these kind of issues, right, including the EPIC issue. Very recently, there was one more issue, EPIC issue, right, voter, the identifier number. Including all these issues, now Election Commission of India has started holding consultations with the stakeholders. And the argument of the editorial is simple here. If there is any policy, if there is any recommendation which will increase the transparency of conducting elections in India, which will help us in basically conveying to the people that, the stakeholders, that elections are not just free but are fair and there is the transparency in the election, these kind of recommendations should be picked up. These kind of recommendations should be implemented by ECI. Right? So this is essentially talking about transparency in the elections. Let's move on to the next article, article number 4. X, right, X corporation or X company has approached Bangalore, or let's say Karnataka High Court, and has right, challenged the Government of India authorities, or let's say orders issued by authorities of Government of India. What is the issue here? Listen to me carefully. Under the Information Technology Act, under the IT Act, under the Information Technology Act, the Government of India, that is various authorities of Government of India, are allowed to issue orders to take down certain content that has been published on these platforms. Is it okay? Right. So under IT Act, the orders can be issued. Now, when the orders is issued, the authorities which have published, or the platforms on which this information is published or statement is published, that has to be taken down. And this is not the first time that EX has approached a High Court challenging the authority of Government of India. Back in the year 2021 also, same thing was done by Company X. Back then it was essentially called with a different name. Now it is called as X. So then it basically challenged the Government of India's authority under Section 69A. It said the Government of India does not have this particular authority and this should be struck down. The Karnataka High Court basically asked, have you followed the order of have you followed the orders of Government of India? What is the argument? Why do you not want to follow the orders? Give me a valid argument, which was not satisfactorily answered. The Karnataka High Court imposed a penalty of 50 lakh rupees. Mind you, 50 lakh rupees on the Company X, and basically dismissed this petition or dismissed this case. Now shift to 2025. Now the Company X again has approached Karnataka High Court and filed a case. Now what is the issue? The Company X simply raises two very important issues here. One, the Government of India and the authorities, right, be it the state government, be it the police department, etc., they are not issuing the order for a takedown under Section 69A of IT Act. Rather, now they are saying more and more orders are being issued under Section 79 of IT Act. Is everybody okay? I'll tell you what is the difference between both of them. Right? Their argument is, under Section 69A, there is a process. Right? There is a particular process because of, let's say 2015 judgment of Supreme Court of India. There is a particular process, right? The court orders can be issued or the government orders can be issued under Section 69A. But now the government authorities are not issuing the takedown orders under Section 69A. Rather, they are issuing the orders under Section 79. And what does the Section 79 basically say? It provides protection to these platforms from being, let's say, dragged into cases. For example, let's say I post something on platform X, which is defamatory in nature, or which is against interest of India, etc. Now an order can be issued by Government of India under 69A to take down this message. The order can also be issued under Section 79, but here the Section 79 simply says the company or the platform on which I have posted the message, that company will not be held liable. Is it okay? That particular platform will not be held liable. It will be provided protection from, let's say, cases. Protection from legal action will be provided to the platform. So essentially the X company is alleging that the Government of India, many entities are using this section. And because this particular section is being used, it is like indirectly they are asking us to take down all of these information. All of these, let's say tweets or let's say the statements which are issued on the platform. It should not be held liable or it should not be held legally valid. The government should be ordered to issue only the orders under Section 69A. That is point number one. Point number two, there is a platform which has been mentioned by this entity. That is Sahyog portal. There is a portal which has been set up by Ministry of Home Affairs. Please make a note of this, Sahyog portal. This particular portal was set up by Ministry of Home Affairs essentially to streamline all of these takedown orders which have to be issued. I'll repeat the statement. The process of filing an order or let's say filing certain information to government authorities taking this into cognizance, then issuing an order. A member or let's say a particular person has to be appointed by every platform on this particular portal. They'll have to be registered here. All of this process has been streamlined by setting up of Sahyog portal. And the X alleges that this particular portal is being misused by government authorities to simply issue an order. This is nothing but a censorship portal. It is a censorship portal, hence it should also not be made mandatory for the companies under the IT Act to be registered, to have a member registered on the Sahyog portal. So these are the two very important concerns or the issues which have been raised by Company X. The case will be heard starting 27th March. It will take certain time period for you to understand what will be the final order issued by the Karnataka High Court. But essentially, these are the two very important points connected to these. Multiple points are relevant. Okay, let me go forward now. Next article. Bihar government demands a special category status. Bihar demands a special category status. Nothing new, just an update. The state of Bihar, the state of Andhra Pradesh, etc., they have been demanding a special category status for many years. The concept of a special category status, I will write SC as special category status. The concept of SCS was introduced back in 1969. And under this, certain states would be identified based on parameters such as, right, let's say the distance to border, hilly terrain, difficult region, not able to generate sufficient revenues, etc. Certain parameters were used to identify these regions and declare these as special category states. And once these are identified as special category states, essentially, right, financial assistance would be provided to them. There is a formula, right, the Gadgil formula. Gadgil formula, remember this. Related to planning, there is a formula called as a Gadgil formula, which was again approved by Planning Commission in 1969. And Gadgil formula essentially laid out on what basis the funding has to be provided. Funding has to be provided to the special category states and then general category states. This Gadgil formula later was restructured into Gadgil-Mukherjee formula and was implemented from 1991. So we started identifying many of these special category states. But after 14th Finance Commission, what Government of India did was, it abolished Planning Commission. Remember this, 2015, Government of India abolished Planning Commission and in place essentially introduced a new authority by the name of Niti Aayog, National Institution for Transforming India. So with the abolition of Planning Commission, Government of India also did away with the concept of a, right, special category states. Now whatever funding has to be provided will be provided by the central government. Different schemes are there, different mechanisms are there to provide the funding to the states. But this particular demand of the Bihar state is not a new one, mind you. It's not a new one. It's been a very long-standing demand. Although very periodically after, let's say 6 months, after 8 months, you will come across this. It is a very long-standing demand. The state of Bihar was actually split into two. And since then, the state of Bihar has been demanding that they should be provided a special category status. The same thing is applicable even to Andhra Pradesh. Earlier, Andhra Pradesh was a single state. It was split into two, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. And since then, the Andhra Pradesh has been demanding a special category status. But what is the stand of Government of India? In all of this, what is the stand of Government of India? The Government of India has categorically denied providing any kind of a special category status to either Bihar or Andhra Pradesh. Said they will not be providing any kind of a special category status because the Constitution of India doesn't provide for any such recognition. Done? So this particular demand has been submitted to the chairperson of the 16th Finance Commission, Mr. Arvind Panigaria. And Mr. Arvind Panigaria has essentially clarified this. He stated that there is no recognition now, right? The concept of special category status is discontinued after the abolition of Planning Commission. There is absolutely, right, no recognition of SCS right now. Done? Okay. So MCQ number 78, consider the following statements. Gadgil formula provided precedence to the special category states for central assistance. The special category states was first introduced in 1969. Right, two statements. How many of them are true or which of them are true? Do let me know. Now, next article. AP to implement subcategorization of scheduled caste. AP to implement subcategorization of scheduled caste. Although regional news, relevant, important. Why? Right, last year, 2024, Supreme Court of India has basically issued an order, issued a judgment. According to this particular judgment, now within the SCs, that is a scheduled caste as well as scheduled tribes, there can be again a classification, which is essentially called as subcategorization. Right? What is the argument here? Argument is very simple. Within, let's say, scheduled caste, who is supposed to get certain reservation, it has been observed that certain, right, let's say subcategories or subcaste within SCs, they have been able to get more benefit. They have been able to improve their life because of the reservation. At the same point of time, certain categories within the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, they have not been able to get the same kind of access or same kind of benefit. So, categorization within categorization, right? Essentially, subcategorization is the same thing. Categorization within categorization has been allowed by Supreme Court of India last year, right, with a judgment. Now, this identification of the, let's say, the population of the SCs and STs, subcategorization, etc., has been allowed to be done by the state governments. As a result of this, Andhra Pradesh, couple of days ago, Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister has announced that they would be implementing subcategorization of the scheduled caste categories. And what is the importance of this? Importance is simple here now. It is essentially reflecting the implementation of Supreme Court of India's order. Second one, because the power is given to the states now to identify what population is there, etc., they will be conducting a population census, and using that, they will be providing subcategorization. Now, to implement this, the Andhra Pradesh government had set up one-person committee. One-person committee. That particular person is Mr. Rajiv Ranjan Mishra, IAS officer. So, see, once you become an IAS officer, right, you can also become the chairperson of all these kind of committees. So, Rajiv Ranjan Mishra committee was set up, and this committee has basically given this recommendation. That is, 59 scheduled caste subgroups have been divided into 3 categories. Again, just for information, I've given this. Please do not memorize this, because from one state to another state, it will vary. Right? So, do not memorize this. Just for sake of information, I've given you, right, what is the grouping, how much reservation, etc., etc. Done? Right? So, these are certain important points, but more importantly, understand this. The government, that is the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, has stated that this is based on the earlier population census, that is 2011 population census. But we need to have an updated population census, that is, which will be conducted in 2026. Hence, right, whatever subcategorization will be done based on the updated caste census or updated population census, which will be conducted in 2026. Okay, right. So, this is one more article. Next one. Land acquisition for public purpose can't be returned to owner through private deal. A Supreme Court order. What is the Supreme Court order? And mind you, although a lot of data has not been provided in the Hindu newspaper article, this case is a very, very old case. Very, very old case. In 1960s, I hope you understand, in 1960s, there was an order issued to identify certain piece of land, to acquire certain piece of land in Delhi. And this order, which was issued during 1960s, was actually executed, was implemented in 1980s. So, in order to set up a market for food grains, market for agriculture commodities, the order was issued in 1960s and was actually, the land was acquired by the government in mid 1980s. And when you acquire land, one of the issue that a lot of these, let's say, government agencies, even the private sector companies face in India is titles, clear titles. Many of the cases, what will happen is, I will agree to sell the land to you. I will collect money to you. I'll give the piece of paper to you. But I would also agree with somebody else to whom I've sold the land. He or she also has certain piece of paper claiming ownership of land. So in many of the cases, these kind of third party titles will lead to issue of land acquisition in India. But mind you, whenever you talk about government, under eminent domain, remember this, the government under the eminent domain, power of eminent domain. Sir, what is this power of eminent domain? Understand this, under this particular power of eminent domain, the government can basically acquire your land, pay certain compensation, and this land shall be used for public usage to provide certain assets or certain infrastructure for public welfare. So under the power of public domain, the government can simply acquire the land from you, whether you like it or don't like it, and will pay fair compensation to you. And that is essentially called as a power of eminent domain. Some of you are saying it is buffering. Please do check and do let me know. Am I audible and visible? Am I audible and visible? Now it is clear. It's fine. Okay, let's continue. So under the power of eminent domain, the government can acquire the land, pay compensation to you. So what has happened is, under this particular power, certain piece of land has been acquired by the government to develop a market, agriculture related market. Now there has been a petition against this acquisition of land. Somebody has gone to the court, that is initially to Delhi and then to Supreme Court, essentially arguing that they also have a ownership over a certain piece of land. And what has happened is, the board here, which was supposed to develop this particular agriculture market, has agreed to return half of the land that has been acquired to the petitioner. Simple, right? The board has accepted, okay, this is your land, I will return half of it to you, and the remaining half I will acquire and pay compensation to you. Now this again has been taken to Supreme Court of India. Supreme Court of India says the board cannot return the land to the, right, let's say the person who has filed the case. Supreme Court says the government initially acquires the land. They acquire the land under the power of eminent domain. Now how can a board which is supposed to implement a project can enter into an agreement with one more party, transfer the land back? Is it not a fraud on the power of the government, where it is acquiring land but somebody else is returning the land back to the private person? So that is exactly what the Supreme Court of India has issued in the form of an order. Supreme Court says this cannot be allowed. This is a fraud on the government powers of eminent domain. This cannot be allowed. So this is essentially associated with the power of the government and the land acquisition policies in India. Land acquisition policies in India. And as of now, please remember, the acquisition of the land is done under Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation, Resettlement Act of 2013. LARR 2013. Done? Okay. So next article. The Public Accounts Committee has flagged certain issues regarding flagship schemes of Government of India. Right? What is the issue here? Understand this. The Public Accounts Committee has taken up one of the schemes of Government of India. That is essentially the Swadesh Darshan scheme. The Swadesh Darshan scheme was implemented by the government from the financial year 2015. Okay. Now, under this particular scheme, lot of funds have been allocated for development of projects which will promote tourism. But there is one more report which has been published by Comptroller Auditor General, CAG, Comptroller Auditor General, which has found certain problems with the implementation of Swadesh Darshan scheme projects. What were the problems highlighted? When you allocate the funds, you need to first have a project, first prepare a project, and find out whether the project is feasible or not feasible. For example, you want to construct a road. Is the project feasible? Can you acquire the land easily? Can you move the raw materials in this particular region? Right? So this is basically the analysis, right? The analysis whether the project is feasible or not. So a lot of these particular projects, the funds have been approved, funds have been allocated without any kind of a feasibility study. That is one issue. Right? Without having a feasibility study, how can you essentially allocate the funds? Second, in lot of these particular projects, the funds have been allocated, but the actual implementation has been delayed and the expenditure has been much higher than what has been allocated. Is the point clear? We have allocated funds. We are supposed to finish the project in certain time period. There is a delay, and not just the delay. The cost that has been actually incurred is much higher than what has been allocated. All of these particular issues have been flagged by the Comptroller Auditor General regarding the projects that have been approved under Swadesh Darshan scheme. Now, this particular report has been taken up by Public Accounts Committee, and they have asked for clarification from the ministry. Initially, the ministry said, no, most of the projects have been implemented, but the Public Accounts Committee has said, please conduct, that is the Tourism Ministry should conduct a field inspection of all the projects which have been implemented under Swadesh Darshan scheme, conduct a field study, and then basically provide me a report. Give me a report. How many projects have been fully completed? How many of them are operational? What is the additional revenue being generated because of these kind of projects? How many new jobs are getting generated or have been generated because of the project? All these details should be provided to the Public Accounts Committee. And by the way, Public Accounts Committee plays a very, very important role, which holds different ministries responsible, accountable for the financial expenditures. Done? Okay. Next article, inflation going up in South from migration from poorer states. One more point of, let's say, discussion which will divide South state and North states, and both of them will fight with each other now. Right? Inflation going up in South from migration from poorer states. What is the issue? This is a report which has been published by State Bank of India. What is it? What does the report say? The report simply says, from poorer state, mainly the northern states, the migration of population is happening to southern states. And this particular population is migrating for what purpose? For the purpose of better jobs. Simple. For the purpose of better jobs, in search of better quality of life. Right? So that they will earn more, they will have more money to spend, they will support the family, etc. Now, as a result of this kind of a movement or migration of the population, what essentially will happen is, for the goods and services in these states will start increasing. Correct? The demand will start increasing. And when the demand starts to increase, the price levels will also start to increase. And when the price levels will increase, it will lead to inflation. And that is exactly what the report says here. Although this is not the only reason, I'll tell you. Right? Although this is not the only reason, but this is one of the main reasons. The migration is contributing to higher inflation in southern states. The average rate of inflation in southern states is much higher than what is the national average rate of inflation. And it is much higher than what is the inflation rate in the northern states. But before you jump to a conclusion, before you simply jump to a conclusion that yes, people migrating is actually contributing to inflation, this is very bad, etc., etc., listen to me. Please listen to me. Point number 2. Is the government in the southern part of India, that is the southern states, are they also contributing to inflation? Answer is yes. I'll explain it. Have patience. The governments of southern states, are they also contributing to inflation? Answer is absolutely yes. How? If the governments will have higher tax rates, do let me know. If the governments will have higher tax rates, will this not contribute to higher market prices? And higher market prices, will this not contribute to inflationary trends? Simple. Now you will ask me, sir, what kind of taxes you are talking? Right? You are supporting the arguments of northern India. Why? You are from southern India, you support us, etc., etc. No, facts are facts. Right? I hope you understand. Facts are facts. There is a very famous quote of a, let's say, journalist who said, you are entitled to your opinion. You are entitled to your opinion, not facts. You are entitled to your opinion, but not facts. What is the argument here? Argument is simple. Let's take an example of petrol. Let's take a very simple example, petrol. Right? Who do you think will impose taxes on petrol? Central government will impose taxes. State government will also impose taxes. So if the governments, right, let's say state governments, mind you, if they will have a higher tax rate on, right, let's say petrol, will this not increase the market prices? If they have higher rates upon registration of, let's say, flats, will this not contribute to higher market prices? If they have higher, let's say, taxes on registration of vehicles, will this not contribute to higher market prices? So I hope you understand this. I hope you understand, right? In addition to increasing demand because of the migration of the population, it is also the policies of the governments here which have imposed higher taxes that has contributed to higher market prices and to the inflation. Done? So these are the two very important points I want you to take away from this article. Beyond this, there is a lot of discussion regarding inflation rate in this state, that state, etc., etc. Do not waste your time in memorizing all of it. Okay, next one. Lilly unveils drug for obesity control. Right, a new drug has been announced, or sorry, has been introduced in India. Right, this is an old drug in USA, but in India this has been introduced for controlling diabetes. But more than controlling diabetes, please understand, whenever these kind of drugs are announced to control type 2 diabetes, generally these are also used for controlling obesity. Is it okay? These are generally controlled, or these are used for controlling obesity. For example, in very recent times, you must have heard of Ozempic. Please do let me know in the chat section. You must have heard of Ozempic. Right? Ozempic has been a center of discussion as a weight loss drug, obesity control drug. Or for that matter, there is one more, semaglutide. Semaglutide. This is also one more type of a obesity control drug itself. So please understand, there are different types of drugs which are available. These kind of drugs are generally used for controlling diabetes, because these will control the spike in the sugar in the blood. In addition to this, these are also used in many cases for controlling obesity, for controlling weight. One such new type of a drug has been introduced in India now by the name of Mounjaro, right? A new type of a obesity control drug. It is also used for diabetes 2 patients. Right, so please understand, there is a rising trend in India now. The market for obesity control drugs is also increasing. And please understand, UPSC can ask you these names. Right, they can ask you what is the use of these kinds of drugs. I know a lot of you are from biotechnology background. You'll be more worried about how blood glucose level can be controlled here. What is, right, let's say a peptide, what is, right, let's say use of these kind of drugs, etc. But I don't think so. I personally do not think so that UPSC will go to the extent of you asking what kind of impact it will have on the hormones generation in the, let's say, the people, which will help us controlling the cravings, or let's say impact on the CNS, etc. But the names, I would argue that please memorize the names. These kind of names can be asked in the preliminary examination. Done? Okay, one more article, GPS spoofing. What is this concept of a GPS spoofing? In many of the English movies, the concept of a GPS spoofing is used, or let's say some technology related to GPS spoofing is actually used. For example, in the movies, James Bond movies, or in movies such as the old movies such as Die Hard. Again, not exactly GPS spoofing, but related to that. But what is essentially GPS spoofing, right? Please remember the name, terminology, and what is the meaning of it. GPS spoofing essentially means you keep on sending signals. You keep on sending signals which is captured instead of the original signal. Right? The GPS signals are acquired by the receiver from satellites. Instead of receiving that particular signal, another signal which is much stronger but which is not the actual GPS signal will be captured, and your receiver will start interpreting that particular signal. This is called as a GPS spoofing. And what is the impact of it? Let's assume there is an aeroplane. Okay, there's a flight. Certain aeroplane is taking a path. Instead of getting the signal from the actual GPS satellite, imagine it will capture a wrong signal which is being transmitted by somebody else. It is not the actual signal. It is much stronger. So receiver will capture that. Original GPS signal will be ignored. Now this new signal which is captured might simply show that you are on, let's say, India. You are on India, but this new signal will show that you are in, let's say, Russia. It will basically show the map of, let's say, USA. This is the manipulation. It's a kind of a cyber attack. It is basically manipulating the GPS system and showing you wrong data. Manipulation. That is called as a GPS spoofing. So Government of India has confirmed 465 cases. I repeat, 465 cases of GPS spoofing. This, let's say, information has been provided, and the government has stated that these kind of cases are much more prevalent in the border regions. Let's say Punjab, or for example in the extreme northern tip of India, etc. So these kind of spoofing cases have been detected in India. This can be asked in the preliminary examination. Be very, very careful. Done? Okay, so these are the 11 articles I wanted to discuss. Like I said, I'll discuss one more article that I've taken from Mint newspaper. Just give me a couple of days. I'm sorry, couple of minutes, not days. So MCQ number 77. Consider the following statements. Appeals against the orders of CCI can be appealed at NCLAT. Yes. NCLAT has been set up under the Competition Commission Act of 2002. No. Under the Companies Act of 2013. NCLAT has taken over the functions of COMPAT, that is the Competition Appellate Tribunal. Yes, so two statements are true. Right option will be option B. Only two of the statements are true. Question number 78. Consider the following statements. Gargill formula provided precedence to the special category states for central assistance. Yes. Yes. It will first provide the precedence, that is priority for special category states, then to general category states. The special category states was first introduced in 1969. Yes. Both the statements are true. Right option will be option B. Only two are correct. Now, like I said, I'll take up one more article from Mint newspaper, that is the 13th, the 13th of March, Mint newspaper. One of the student had asked a question, in my earlier Hindu newspaper analysis as well as the notification. What is this inventory model of e-commerce and market model of e-commerce? What is this idea? What is this inventory model and market model? Now please understand. Just a second. Both the statements are true. Correct. Somebody else, many of you are commenting, sir, both are correct. Yes, yes, absolutely correct. Both are correct. While making it green, I felt both. I thought how many statements are true? My mistake. Both the statements are true. Option C is the right one. Don't worry. Option C is the right one. I'm happy. A lot of you are observing what I'm doing. Okay, so what is this inventory based model and a market based model? Simple. In inventory based model, I'm an e-commerce company. I will own the platform and also the goods which are sold on the platform. Is my statement clear to all of you? I'll repeat it again. For example, if Amazon is, right, let's say owning the Amazon e-commerce website, it will not just own the website, it can also sell the goods owned by themselves on the platform. That is called as inventory-based model. Whereas marketplace model essentially means I will simply provide the platform to you. Different sellers will come, different buyers will come, both will connect using the platform. That's it. Right? That is essentially called as a marketplace model. Inventory-based marketplace. In case of India, if you're a foreign company under FDI policy, you are allowed to have only marketplace model. You cannot have an inventory-based model. Is everybody okay? If you're an e-commerce company in India, you can have only marketplace model. You cannot have inventory-based model. And that is exactly what is being demanded by our counterparts from USA. Out of all the negotiations that are happening between India and USA, one of the demands of the USA has been that India should provide the same level playing field by allowing the American companies to have inventory-based model in India. Right? That is one of the demands which has been put forward by government of USA, and that is exactly what is being discussed in this article. Is everybody okay with the difference of inventory-based and market-based model? Okay. Now, if you ask me, sir, why is India not allowing this? Government of India, right, basically says that, one, I want to promote domestic companies. Second, if foreign companies will come into India, essentially they'll take the market share. They will essentially take the market share. For example, Amazon, right? I hope you understand. Amazon is an American company. Flipkart is an American company. Despite these being foreign companies, because of their practices such as a deep discounting model, deep discounting that they practice, unhealthy competition that they practice, they have been able to acquire majority of the market share. Now imagine they will be allowed to control inventory as well. Then the domestic manufacturers would be affected to a greater extent. That is essentially the argument. Now, before taking up other questions which have been raised by the students in my earlier video, for a lot of you, when you raise questions in my videos, I answer to those questions. Please check, I answer, provided the question is legitimate. Right? For example, there was a student, or let's say there was a learner by the name of Life is Hell. I cannot agree more. The name of the student is Life is Hell, or the username is Life is Hell. Right? They asked me a question about GNP deflator. I answered it. And I'm telling you this because the username through which you will get the answer is Shyam Kaggod. I'm telling this because I'm worried at some other point of time somebody will basically say, without knowing that it is me, who are you to answer? I'm asking this to, right, this fellow, why are you answering? Mind your own business. My dear, I'm minding my own business. This is only my business, by the way. Okay. So I'll keep on answering to many of your questions that you have posted either in my, let's say, the MCQ based discussion or this video or other videos. If the username is a Shyam Kaggod, that is me. Done. Okay. So other questions? Recently, RBI is buying back G securities in 2 tranches to increase liquidity. Can this also be considered as Operation Twist? My dear, please understand. No, this is not an Operation Twist. In Operation Twist, please remember, the Reserve Bank of India simultaneously, I'll repeat, simultaneously will buy and sell government securities. Is it okay? I'll repeat this again. What is Operation Twist? RBI simultaneously will buy and sell government securities. That is called as Operation Twist. Why? What is the objective here? Objective is to have an impact on the yield rates in the market. This is not an Operation Twist. It is simply methods which are being used by RBI to increase liquidity. Can you please explain to me what is open market operation in detail? My dear, in detail will take me half an hour. In a nutshell, I'll explain. Open market operation simply refers to a function of RBI when RBI will sell, buy government securities. RBI will sell or buy government securities, that is called as open market operation. Example, repo. Repo is an open market operation. Outright, right, is an open market operation. So different ways the open market operation can be conducted. What is bilateral currency swap agreement? Explain it in the recent Indo-Japan $75 billion swap deal. 2018, Government of India and Japan signed a bilateral swap agreement, bilateral currency swap agreement. What does it actually mean? Currencies, that is, let's say Indian currency, Japanese currency and dollar, they can be exchanged. For example, let's say India requires a certain amount of dollars. Let's say hypothetically, India requires certain amount of dollars, there's a shortage. Up to $75 billion, right? Up to $75 billion worth of USA dollars, they can borrow along with interest payment they'll have to pay later to Japan. So is it always in dollar? No, you can borrow in terms of Japanese currency also, equivalent to $75 billion. That is called as a bilateral currency swap agreement. Done? So these are the various questions that have been raised by you people, that is the learners, right, in the earlier video. Now, before I close the session, at 12 o'clock today, at 12 today, time is 11:30, I know that, at 12 today, I have a special class, especially for the aspirants for the Civil Services 2026, where I'll be discussing what should be the strategy, what should be the reference material, reading material, how do you make current affairs notes, etc. If you're interested, please do join the session. It will be at 12. Today, 12 after this session. Point number 2, yesterday I've made a very small short, very interesting by the way, small short by the name of Dal Roti Economics, where I've tried to explain to you with very important or very easy household items, how do you understand the difference between a normal good and an inferior good. If you're interested in learning the basics using household items, do check out the shorts which is there on the same YouTube channel. Okay, same YouTube channel, do check it out. And again, we will bring out more shorts where we will try to explain the economy basics using household items, so that automatically you will understand these basic concepts. And if you like these initiatives, do hit the like button. And if you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Thank you. Have a great day. See you tomorrow again, sharp at 10 a.m.